can get vaccinated for HPV.
Yeah, the CDC says nearly all men and women will get at least one type of this virus at some point in their lives. Dr. Mandira Mehra with SSM Health is here to talk about what's now recommended. And Dr. Mehra, before we get to maybe the implications of all of this,
right.
I think the first question is why? I mean, why expand?
Right.
We're talking about an older age group here for HPV when we've mostly heard about this for teenagers.
Exactly. We always talk about when this first came out in 2014, we were so excited. We said, wow, we have an HPV vaccine. And directly or indirectly, if you understand the science, that really means we have a cancer vaccine. This is something we dreamed about for years. Is could we just create a vaccine that would prevent a cancer? And so here we have basically a vaccine that can prevent many types of cancers, cervical cancer, vaginal cancers, some head and neck cancers. Initially, we thought, let's target that teenage population, right? Basically recommended for ages 9 through 26, really 11, 12, 13-year-olds. Now the recommendations from the FDA are expanding to age 27 to 45. And the reason is that there are so many social situations where you may actually think people may not have been exposed to HPV yet, but still could be. Now remember, there's many different types of this HPV virus, over 150 strains. This Gardasil vaccine actually covers 9 only, but it can cover up to 90% of most of the common HPV cases. So really in other countries where this has become really prominent and really the public health crisis, not crisis, but public health cry has made people realize to get it, they're talking about eliminating cervical cancer.
Wow.
So think about the social implications of that. Australia, particularly this year, has been in the news saying we may not have cervical cancer in 15, 20 years because so many people have successfully gotten the vaccine. So here's a vaccine that can prevent, of course, HPV. Here's a vaccine that can keep us safe, and here's a vaccine that at the end of the day could prevent lots of types of cancers.
It's fascinating.
Briefly, there are some implications for out-of-pocket costs.
There are. So, of course, when the FDA doesn't really recommend or suggest something, what does that mean for us? If I wanted to go get this tomorrow, I'm paying out of pocket $400, $600, something in that range. Once the FDA tends to recommend something, insurance companies take that seriously and say, well, maybe now we need to start covering it. So that means, of course, it'll be more available for all of us.
We also want to talk a little bit about the weather. It's been changing so much, especially this week. And I know Danica and I are especially susceptible to getting sick.
We're just bracing for it. We're just ready.
I mean, is that a possibility? Do people get really sick during this roller coaster weather?
This is, a $1 million question. It's sort of the old wives' tale. The grandmas always say, wrap up the kids and keep them bundled up. And scientists and doctors for years have said, I don't know if there's any truth to that. I think it's just a behavioral thing and people are inside. Now we have a lot of data to suggest actually some different reasons. So we have to say this very carefully. Cold weather does not make you sick. So it's not the weather, it's not the temperature drop per se. But what is happening is it makes you more susceptible and potentially makes viruses like the famous flu virus, does make that more susceptible, more likely to cause us to be more infected. So when the temperatures drop, perhaps our immune systems become a little bit sluggish.
Sure.
The flu virus is much more likely to survive in cold, crisp air, dry temperatures, things like that. So this is why this is also the beginning of flu season. So yes, the cold weather may not directly be doing it, but it's not in your head. We actually do become a little bit more susceptible to getting sick.
Something we're all thinking about this week, especially.
So stay warm.
Yeah, yes, exactly. All right, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Great being here.
Yeah, good to see you. 6:18 right now, and Madison police officers who can speak Spanish